Well, hello. Oh, look, Drax has got all sorts of crap going on in the background there. Get yourself organised, Mr. Drax. Jump on in here. It looks like we are a couple short for tonight. Mr. Sturb had been called into work, unfortunately, so we will not be having Fibble joining us this evening, but Zadrielle is going to tell her friend's story as much as she remembers anyway. When we get to that, we will be also missing a Cameron. I don't know what's happened with Mr. Roasted Chicken. I've not heard from him all week. He is not online on Discord, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure what has happened there, but it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, we will. I'll see what things coming up in the background as well. That's all good. That'll hide that. So, howdy ho neighbor. My God, Blue Jay. The hell. Anywho, what we're gonna do to start off with is we're gonna do a quick epilogue as such. Just a little bit of an extended epilogue on what we left off on the last session. And then we're going to go around each of the players and basically a reintroduction of the player. Not so much what they look like, but just who they are, where they came from, and a little bit of their backstories, or just the basic overview of their backstories. Once we've done that, you guys in the chat, I'm probably going to open up. Is there an echo? Or is that just you? Can we confirm whether there's an echo or not just before we get started? We don't normally have an echo. Oh, yes, there will be Drax. Drax's camera, possibly.
I'm muted, I don't
know. No, but it'll be the thing. Because I added your camera back in, so I've got to go and unmute the source. That's what it'll be. Property. All audio via OBS. And mute. Now we should be good. Hopefully. Hopefully we should be good there. No echo, we're good? You know, okay. No one's saying yes, so we should be good. And then we will be going through questions, Q&A from, I'll be asking some questions to the players. Players, feel free to ask questions about the story and obviously of the DM. And chat, you got any questions for the players or the DM, don't hesitate to ask. At Evildoer, make sure you at me in the chats because it'll highlight it for me so I'll be able to easily read it. And basically you can tag who you want the question to be for, or just a general question, things like that, of that nature. That's cheating, Trash. I'll time you out if you cheat. First things first, we will do our little extended epilogue here. So obviously we ended the session with Strahd standing over the party as they bled out and died. One of them in particular, unfortunately, was torn to pieces by the werewolves. But as Strahd surveys the area around him, he orders the werewolves back to their den and instructs the remaining vampire spawn to return the remains of these adventurers to Castle Ravenloft, and orders them to strip them of everything that they have, potions, magical items and such, and store them or hide them within the castle or around the lands. Any gold and elixirs and potions were passed off to the Vistani to resell as a reward for their services. We then see Strahd make a motion in the air and almost seeming like he's about to whistle, and then from the trees a large black horse appears, flaming mane and tail and hooves. In fact, the very horse that you see Strahd riding below me, a horse by the name of Busfalis, a nightmare horse. As Strahd kicks Busfalis in the flanks, it starts to ride a few steps, then starts into a gallop, and then lifts into the sky above the trees and disappears into the fog and mist. Next, we see him standing on the balcony of Castle Ravenloft, overlooking the village of Barovia. The mists still thick and heavy across the lands, the clouds dark and ominous. He then mutters a few arcane words, his eyes flash in an arcane blue, and his vision then shifts through up into the cloud cover, across the land, swirling around the mists, coming back down over top of the village of Barovia, sweeping over the houses and the buildings, pausing momentarily as we see the Durst Manor standing proud as the day that you guys arrived in Barovia, surging forward still over top of the inn, then to a stately home, the north end of the village. A man is seen rushing towards the house, looking behind him momentarily as if he's being followed or chased. Almost sandy blonde hair, shoulder length, young man, racing towards the house. He gets to the house door and pounds on the door. A few moments go past, the door opens. Vision zooms in over the shoulder of this individual, not quite seeing his face. See a dark-haired woman looking concerned and anxious. The young man exclaims, "Quick, let me in!" And the door pushes open. The man surges past, and as the woman goes to close the door, she turns and seemingly locks eyes with Strahd. And the vision then sucks back to Strahd on the balcony, and that flash of arcane disappears, the eyes intent, and that slight grin, but not a grin of happiness, more a grin of dark and evil intent washes over his face as he turns and heads back into his chamber. Pretty much that is where the story ends. For you players, I'm sure you could almost gather who he's just witnessed, as you guys witnessed a similar event, well, kind of similar event, on your arrival in Barovia. It seems that this place and its darkness and of its dark power has somewhat reset, ready for the next band of adventurers to breach its borders, or to be invited, and when I say invited, we all know what that means. Now for just a quick overview of the items in which were taken from you. Zadrielle's clockwork shield and hammer, the boots of Elvenkind, some potions of healing, and a manner of things. I'm not sure how much gold she had. Oh, she had 800 gold on her. So her gold has been distributed to the Vistani as well as the potions. The hammer and the shield either stored in the castle vault or scattered across the land somewhere for the next adventuring party to possibly find. Who knows? Scathis. Unfortunately, Scathis' body was torn asunder by the werewolves and became food for the pack. But the amulet of defense, the potions, the staff of the undead, the staff of whatever it was, I can't remember what it was. A corpse slayer spear, sorry, also taken and distributed. Fibblestib. Bit of an enigma to Strahd, but nonetheless he had many things in his pack. The owl dismembered for parts. The Shield Guardian's amulet taken. The potions distributed. What gold he had on him also distributed. The luck stone. The dragon shards rescattered across the land. Kaunos, again, lots of things in Kaunos' pack, all well distributed throughout his pack, of course. Approximately 2100 gold and over 700 platinum distributed with the Vistani. We also had the damaged sun sword, which Strahd looked for when he was there but was unable to find. Unusual, but it seemed to have vanished. Many daggers, hand axes. We had the Victor battle axe, which was also taken. Many weapons indeed. The bag of holding, the ring of feather falling. We also had potion of speed. We had the holy water was probably tipped out where on the battlefield, no doubt. But many things were taken and distributed. And last, of course, Alok the Grey. He had the pipes of haunting. He had his blowgun, the flute, alchemist supplies, thieves' tools. He also had 20 platinum and almost 2,000 gold. So you guys had a fair amount of coin amongst you by the end of your journey here. All lost to the land of Barovia. I believe I just got a message as well. I did. He completely forgot. He just woke up, but he's coming. I thought we kind of figured that, didn't we?
As Drugs is pointing out and hasn't stopped, Fibble's gun, you missed
Ah, yes, Charlotte as well, indeed. Probably shouldn't forget that. It would be all important. That possibly, I'd say more than likely would have ended up in the castle vaults. So we'll obviously wait. We're not going to wait for Adok, but we're going to carry on without him and get some backstories from everybody else before we feature Adok. So probably since Fibble's not here, we'll start with Zadrielle and Fibble. Fibble specifically. So Zadrielle, what do you remember of Fibble's backstory? I know it was fairly basic, but as Zadrielle and Fibble were traveling companions before they met with Kaunos at the inn, give us a bit of a background of both characters if you want, leading up to when they met Kaunos.
According to Fibble, he is in Phandalin. He has a wife named Doubledop and a son named Sebastian. And he has known Zadrielle's grandmother and grandfather as they used to be his adventuring companions. So he's very old and he's kind of like a family friend. And when Zadrielle went off, he decided to come along just to kind of protect her and see the world. Now, he had a theory that he was making clones of himself to go around. So we don't know if Fibble's Fibble or Fibble's not Fibble, but Fibble might still be around. And then there is a blown up cow on the way as they head to the inn. Zadrielle, she was engaged in Phandalin until she got a calling in the woods one day from a god and took up the oath of ancients. And she had decided to go look for her father, who was lost for a very long time. And Fibble came along with her. And that's how they had arrived at the inn on episode 1. And she later took the oath of vengeance due to just her bitterness towards Strahd and wanting to see that he would be ended. I think I haven't left anything out, really.
Oh, that sounds about right. We'll probably touch a little bit more on Zadrielle's oath change a little bit later on. So next up, we'll go with Emilia, because Emilia's backstory. This has been a joke amongst the players. Emilia's backstory is fucking huge. It is. I've asked him to sort of narrow it down as much as he possibly can, but just to reiterate, this was Drax's first full-time campaign. So he wasn't sure whether he would be fully into it or not. So he designed a character with the intention of ending his life relatively early within the campaign. The intention was to get the party to kill him, which he almost succeeded with. But by the time we got to that in the story, he messages me the night before, I think it was either the night or 2 days before that particular session, and says, hey dude, I'm really enjoying this and I really don't want to die. How can we figure this out? And I just said to him, I said, unfortunately, the story is kind of the story now, and it's up to you in roleplay to whether you can convince these guys not to murder you or not. And two things. The roleplay in that session on Drax's part was very well done. I think he did an excellent job at trying to present his case to the party, but I also think the party kind of realized, I mean, obviously don't want to kill a person that early in the campaign, and I think they let him off. I think Karnos being the hero was probably never going to kill him anyway, but there was definitely times there I think that they came extremely close. Welcome on in, chicken. We kind of figured you'd forgotten.
I literally you can't see my bed, but I honestly passed out.
It's all good, bud. We'll get to you. We'll give you a bit of chat. We'll get to you in a minute. So we'll give you a chance to actually fully wake up. So Drax, would you like to fill the players and the viewers on a little bit of where Emilia came from before she met the group and headed into Barovia? Max, muted. I think you're muted, sir.
Nah, he is not muted.
Okay, I know what has happened. Give me 1 second. I did it. It's my fault. Where you go, Jax?
Yeah? Can you hear me now?
No, we've lost you. Fuck. Hang on a
I
second.
mean, I can hear you.
Yeah, we've got them, so it must be something at your arrangement.
You would have gotten to chapter 3 and not had any sound. Yeah.
I think I know what's happened. Give me 1 second. It's a me. It's something I've done on this end.
Maddie says you can hear me.
Didn't you receive a link in Discord, Cam? No? Hang on
I
then.
can send it. I'll send it.
Okay.
Give me 1 second, guys. This is the one issue I've had with oh, hang on a minute. I know what it is. Advanced audio. The chat will be able to hear him. I can't hear him. But that's all it is. Monitor on output. There we go. Now I should be able to hear you. There you go, Drax. No, I still can't hear you. What the hell?
If I
There we
mute,
go. I can hear you.
yeah.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. People can hear me now. Okay, so I was
Yeah,
seriously.
no, it was me. I had you through OBS, but then I had you not outputting, so I could hear you.
So seriously culled the shit out of this, so it shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, we've only got 2 hours, so I mean, your original backstory probably would have taken that long.
Well, I think the backstories of my parents alone would have taken that long.
Yeah.
So-
this is just for Emilia, the person that the characters knew and the players knew, or the viewers knew coming in. So.
Okay, so Emilia Elastus, his real name was Emilia Orbis, which is the Latin word for compass, because the paradigm one.
It was a direct nod to Paradigm, indeed.
Yes, it was. As a young person, she lived with her mother and father. Her mother was a sea Orbis, who was a priestess of the Temple of Saloon, whose temple was destroyed by demons, blah, blah, blah. I'll get past that. Her father, QX, which is Drax, was a hunter whose prized possession was the wolf that he killed and skinned. So the rug in their house was the wolf, and the hat that he made was the helmet that she wore in the beginning. At a young age, she came home to find that her parents both been killed by demons, and then she was all alone. She lived so when she's about a teenager, she lived in this dark woods where no one would go. And then when she was a teenager, she met this guy just wandering around. He was really injured, and so she helped him out. And he thanked her by taking a bite out of her. And she went to a town looking for help, and they figured out what she was becoming, and tried to execute her. They failed miserably because of her parents. Because of her mother's bloodline with the priestess hood and everything. Saloon protected her, so she figured she was immortal, and basically went on the run, and eventually ended up in the Cragshaven Inn, where she met other people. And when she went to Barovia, that severed her link with Saloon, which stopped the protection that she got from her goddess, and that eventually killed her.
Well, at the very least, that's what she believed.
Yeah, that was the belief.
So yeah, but again, to fill in a couple of blanks there, the vampire that bit Emilia, which caused her to start to turn, was a bride of Strahd. But one of Strahd's brides that had escaped from Barovia had found a way out. And the only reason they were able to escape Barovia is because they were a vampire. The mist didn't kill them as they crossed over the borders. Severely wounded, which is why when he was found by Emilia, he was on the verge of death. So Emilia looked after him, and he attacked her, and eventually she started to turn. And the moment she crossed the borders into Barovia, Strahd sensed his own bloodline, which is why he essentially went to her first. She was the first he showed himself to. He saw a potential ally in Emilia. Well, that didn't quite turn out that way.
Oh.
And next up, I think we will go with Scathis. So, Mr. Trashman. Let's have a little bit of a backstory for Mr. Scathis, the red-scaled tiefling.
Well, most of it's been said already in the campaign.
That's right. We can refresh people's memories.
Damn you. Okay, so Scathis, abandoned on the doorsteps of a monastery up in the mountains and raised by them and taught not to speak because of his, I suppose, demon powers, I guess. And then the monastery got burnt down, apparently by Asmodeus. Which
there's a little bit more to it than that. I'll help you out, Trash. I know how much you love not to talk about these things. So
yeah, absolutely.
Essentially, yes, He was abandoned at the monastery where they took him in, but they would not train him initially. They saw him for what they believed he was, which was a direct descendant of Asmodeus, and their order did not obviously take kindly to this. They would not harm an innocent child, but they believed that he would eventually grow up and be a problem, more or less. One of those monks, however, took him under his wing and trained him in the art, the way of the monk, and which gave him the skills that he had. And as Trash said, the monastery was razed to the ground one evening. Scathis believed that it was his fault, that he'd caused it. He ran and spent pretty much the next 2 or 3 years just wandering the Sword Coast, helping people out, just out of the goodness of his heart, not for money, just for room and board, maybe a bed to sleep in on occasion, but just helping people out, helping the innocent, not really speaking. Think kung fu, that kind of idea. The Shaolin monk that's just roaming the land helping people, that doesn't really know any better. Obviously that led him to the Cragshaven Inn on the trade road, where he met with Karnos and the rest of the group and was asked to join. We will then go to... You're welcome, Trash. We'll then go to Karnos. We'll save Adok to last because he didn't actually come in at the very beginning. So, actually, before Karnos, we're going to... Nutty, are you there? Are you decent? More to the point? Is she even listening? That's the other side of things.
You're decent.
You wanna just bring yourself over out this side for a bit? Because I know you're actually here.
She sure is.
She's in a dressing gown, but
Come on, give us that backstory, nutbags.
So, would you like to give Mirabelle's? You remember Mirabelle's backstory? I remember bits and pieces of it. I know she was a halfling. She came from a village.
Yeah, nah.
Oh, it was like 3 years ago when she
It
died,
was.
so who knows?
You want me to do it, or you?
You
have
can
to
do it because
Okay.
I can't remember.
You can hang out here though. So yeah.
Okay. Oh,
So
yeah.
Nutty's here. I don't know if you guys can see her. Probably not. She's not. Oh, there she is. So Mirabelle was obviously a halfling. She's definitely dead. Everybody's dead. But Mirabelle, she was a apprentice sorcerer. She wasn't very good though. This is the problem that she had. And one day she crafted this wand, which was her arcane focus that she had when you guys met her. She made the arcane focus from the sacred tree from her village, from a branch from the sacred tree, which was not allowed. It was the tree was not allowed to be touched anyway, but she did it anyway. Her uncle had taught her some things. Her uncle was a great adventurer and a great sorcerer. So she basically lied her way through the first few years of her life, pretending to be a great sorcerer. But one of her childhood friends, acquaintances probably more likely, discovered what she'd done and discovered her fraud and intended to out her to the village unless she ran away, basically. Leave the village or I'll tell you. He basically wanted to be the new sorcerer's apprentice. So he basically blackmailed her into leaving. So she spent a fair amount of time wandering the Sword Coast as well, not unlike Scathis, but not really helping people, probably causing more havoc than help a lot of the time with failed spells and things. But she started to learn her arcane magics quite well, and she did get quite good eventually. And then, of course, she met up with you guys at the Cragshaven Inn. And unfortunately, due to IRL commitments, Nutty couldn't commit to the entirety of the story. So Mirabelle was our first disappearance in Barovia. I will go into detail exactly what happened to Mirabelle a little bit later on, but she was she disappeared in a haze of mist one evening heading towards the windmill, I believe you were heading to, with Ismark, and she vanished as you guys were all lost in a very thick fog. Karnos, the perpetrator of this event, more or less, was approached by a man by the name of Giovanni. But prior to that, let's get Karnos's history leading up to the letter that he received from Giovanni.
Well, it goes like this. One man, one mission. No. so Karnos grew up close to, I believe, Zadrielle and Filstip. He grew up in a village near the big town of Waterdeep called Amphale, a real D&D place. His parents were super tidy and clean. That's where he gets his organization from. So they were real, ABC sort of freaks, and so was he. So he liked everything in his place. That's why he has to stack his bag perfectly in order, even numbers and all that reason. And his story is, as a teenager, he was headed home one day after chopping wood, and he saw a house on fire, and he wasted no time in saving the mother and child that were within. So that turned him into a local hero. And then he decided from that point on, after a few weeks of everyone sort of praising him, he's like, this is stale, I need more glory. And it sort of built from there. He started rounding up vagrants and pickpockets. He sort of assisted the local law officers, minor duties, all that sort of thing. And then the great lords of Waterdeep called on heroes, because there was some stirrings beneath the ancient city, or below the ancient city, and he grouped together with 4 budding adventurers, and as they were entering the sewer gates, sort of with a crowd in tow cheering them on to go and defeat this ancient evil, something happened. The 4 adventurers ahead of him, as they rolled in, he waved to the crowd and everything fell down on him. The sewer grate, everything crushed his hip, his pelvis, tore his groin apart. And this is where the jokes of his missing penile arrangement come in. And so from this point forward, he was in pain, he was drinking, his parents weren't super rich or anything, and so he couldn't afford all the super healing spells. So it took him a while to grow all his bits and pieces back, which he never did. And once he healed, he stayed drinking to keep the pain at bay, but he still wanted that feeling of being a hero. So of course he, as you guys have heard in other campaigns, he zip-zapped from a wizard back and forth from different places, doing a job for a wizard many a time. Until eventually he heard the tale of this Burgermeister, got the letter in the mail. And I just want to add, this character was created for another campaign. And the reason why he has such a weird backstory with his penis being destroyed is because we had a player in the other campaign who was a super sexual deviant in his character. He's a really nice guy in real life, but all his characters were so sexual deviant. I was like, I have to come up with a way that this guy can't do anything with my character. so I had his groin and pelvis and butt and everything just totally destroyed, so he could not be played with by this other dude's characters.
And,
so
and the funny thing about that is that same character was in our home game that Baz DMs as well for a time, and yeah, he did some fucked up things.
Oh yeah, he made a clone of himself just so he could have sex with himself. It was awesome. So Karnos started out as like a bit of a joke character for another campaign, and I think his first hit in the other campaign was a natural 20 with an axe strike which cut someone's head off, and I thought, man, I'm going to use this character in another campaign somewhere, and that's how he came about for here. So,
and again, all the characters have turned out so good. And lastly, Adok, another character. This character came in a little bit later in the sessions. He didn't start with the campaign. Adok was picked up in Barovia. Initially, Chicken was. I asked Roasted Chicken to play Strahd for me, as after meeting obviously Chicken through his previous sessions with Jackson, his DM over there, and playing Adok in that campaign, playing Curse of Strahd as well. I thought, well, hey, we got to talking, we got to become reasonably good friends, and I said, hey, look, do you want to play Strahd for me? And he agreed. And then as we're sort of getting through it, I'm thinking, hey, dude, your Curse of Strahd's fallen over, right? Do you want to continue playing that character? I said, we may make some changes to his backstory to suit this setting. And again, he agreed. And so Adok the Grey joined our campaign So, Adok, would you like to give I mean, obviously, we changed the twin-souled part of Adok's backstory, but not many people know actually what Adok was before he found his way to Barovia. So, would you like to give your version of Adok's backstory and sort of how we had introduced him into the campaign?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Basically, Adok grew up as a grey goblin, was born that way, ostracized from his clan because he was completely different. And goblin life is, if you don't fit in, not the same. You're basically killed or, if not, kicked to the wilderness. So he's picked up by a tinkerer or wizard of sorts. There was some things that happened, and he ended up being raised by this guy and turned into a merchant and tinkerer of his own. Working in the capital city of the Sword Coast, but and then I can't really remember how he got to Barovia. I think he literally just woke up one day in there. He literally had no idea. He's a merchant. He's not an adventurer, so hence why he's absolutely shit scared of everything, because he's nothing to do with. He's kind of had to learn how to fight and defend for himself on the fly in Barovia. He was adventuring around with a party beforehand that he met, much similar to the party that he ended up with and eventually dying in. They ended up being mauled to death by Strahd as well. So it's happened once before, where he's lost an entire party. He kind of got a little bit brainwashed as well by Strahd, and that is how he ended up with the other party. He was kind of not necessarily let go by Strahd, but sort of slotted in as a pseudo spy without his prior knowledge, really, because of Strahd's mind-altering effects.
Pretty much. So, bearing that in mind, up until the point where Strahd attacked you guys, Adok was the only one that ever seen Strahd in his true form, if you so to speak, in his true just inhuman, I will kill everything kind of attitude. With how much of that memory he retained, however, was probably a little slim, because he'd had his mind tinkered with a little bit, and obviously was absolutely terrified 90% of the time. So obviously we had that there as well. So again, I'm just going to give a quick sort of rundown on how we started the campaign. So, as I mentioned before, Karnos had been approached by a very colourful gentleman by the name of Giovanni and given a letter in which he was told that this letter came from Giovanni's lord or master, and the letter was asking for help. Well, essentially the burgomaster of Barovia was asking for help for his daughter, who was being preyed upon by a vampire. Karnos, being the eternal hero, accepted this challenge and set out to find a group of would-be adventurers that would be able to aid him in his task. So with that, he travelled around a little bit and then found himself at the Crag's Haven Inn on a trade road between Daggerfall and I can't remember the other area, but it was on the trade road, not far on the south of Daggerfall, I think it was. We put it on the map. And in that inn, he perused the area and found, I believe, Mirabelle was already there, as was Scathis. I think Emilia was also already there. And Fibble and Zadrielle made a grand entrance, which was, I think, the highlight of episode 1 from my memory. That the talking about the cow and the blowing off the leg and whatnot. So the group was then formed with promise of coin and fame and everything else that comes with the heroic deeds that one does. They eventually set out, and Giovanni met them. They eventually set out and made the way to the gypsy camp, where they were told a story of Strahd, of their master, who turned out to be Strahd. They drank, they danced, they talked, It appears that they may have been drugged, as when they woke up, they found themselves in a strange land surrounded by thick mist. And that's pretty much where our story started. Obviously, most of anyone who knows the Curse of Strahd campaign, I had added a lot of homebrew to this story. Not everything was set specifically to the module, because there were a lot of things about the module, not that I didn't like, but I found the modules can be a little bit regimented and a little bit sort of one-sided. So I really wanted to add just a little bit of me into the module as well. And me being that absolute horror freak and loving the whole vampire trope anyway, it was my setting. The Curse of Strahd is one of my favorite modules, based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, written in the 70s originally, under Ravenloft, and then many iterations from there through the Dungeons and Dragons world. But thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously sad to have it end with a TPK, unfortunately, but for all intents and purposes,
that's what you wanted.
That's what I wanted. I wanted Strahd to win. I will say that from day one. I always wanted Strahd to win, because the bad guy has to win in order for those stories to be, those legends to make it out there for the rest of the world. But at the same time, I was rooting for you guys, because you guys have done, 78 sessions in the Curse of Strahd is nothing to sneeze at. Most parties lose their first player within the first 5 sessions. If you read the forums and things like that, they generally lose their first player within the first 5 sessions, and most of them can end. The average Curse of Strahd campaign lasts no more than 30 sessions before either they win or they get killed. Because we focus a lot on RP and really focusing on that story stuff, we were able to sort of drag things out a little bit. And of course, we're only running sort of 2.5 hour sessions, so that will increase our time as well.
Sorry, I think it was just a dysfunctional family thing we had going.
Very dysfunctional. So I guess for all the players, we'll go around one at a time, but the question will be the same. Is obviously, how much knowledge of the Curse of Strahd did you have coming into the campaign? Did that have any influence on the character or the race and class you chose to play? Because I know sometimes, even without realizing, without intention, it can sometimes influence the type of character you decide to play when you know the story, or know some of the story at least. Pretty much that first. We'll get onto it. There's a second part to that as well. But Baz, how much did you know about Curse of Strahd leading into it? And obviously your character was already pre-made, so we know the answer to the second part.
So I have heard of Curse of Strahd, and I've been playing D&D for fucking ages, so of course it's not something that's new to me. However, I've never played it, and I've never read the module, so everything was new. I knew, I guess, the spoiler, and we talked about this behind the scenes, the spoiler for me is called Curse of Strahd. If they didn't call it Curse of Strahd, people would be a little more not so against Strahd, I guess. If it just was called the Curse of Barovia, it might be a bit of a different game for people to come into.
Exactly.
Nonetheless, as you said, the character is pre-made. However, it did have a heavy weight on me role-playing the Paladin cross, and so dual classing to Pally, that's really made the difference. As far as, I wasn't going to dual class, but prior to getting the Sun Sword, it was much harder to do damage against the undead creatures. So I thought having a little bit of an ability to hit them with some radiant damage was going to be helpful, being at Pally sort of level 1, 2, or 3. I didn't realise at that stage, like I said, that I was going to end up with a Sun Sword. So had I known that, it may have just stayed fighter. But otherwise, that was the main choice. That's it for me, I think.
No worries. Zadrielle, we'll go down that way this time. So firstly for you is, how much of the Curse of Strahd did you know prior? I mean, I know you're relatively new to D&D, which as well. But did it have any influence on the decision to play a paladin at all?
I knew it was about a vampire, and I knew that lots of people die early. That's all I knew about it. But the decision to be a paladin was because I was trying to go through each class I haven't done. And
Yeah, I
then
think we
the
did. I think we talked about that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And the Oath of Ancients was at level 7 they get this aura of magical resistance, which I thought would be cool because no matter what out there, if it was magical, I could get half. So
Yeah.
that was my main reasoning. But then I switched oaths due to storyline. So
Yeah, and we will touch on that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
So Drax, obviously, you know nothing about D&D. This is your first campaign, but again, your character, you and I sort of fleshed out your character a little bit together. So obviously, how much of Curse of Strahd did you know prior to this? Like, did you do any research at all? Did you read it?
Absolutely nothing. I knew he was a vampire, and I thought it'd be funny if I was a vampire too. That was it.
That was pretty much it. That was, I mean, I say Drax. I spent a bit of time with Drax, helping him develop his character. I went through D&D Beyond with him, helped him create the character on there, and then the backstory was all him, which is why it was so fucking big.
The whole being a vampire too was the old idea of fucking with everyone.
Yeah,
that was the ultimate troll of being I am the enemy.
Yeah, and
so
again, going into it, sort of. From that point of view, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy this, but I'm going to fuck with everyone while I'm here.
Exactly.
And it turned out I think it turned out really good story-wise too. And I think actually having Emilia in the story and with the background and everything else, I think it actually turned out pretty good. And I enjoyed Emilia as a character.
I think it was 20 sessions before I swung my weapon. That was dope in the chest.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
And then it was like 30 or something before I actually attacked someone. It was just like, I'm not going to be useful because it's a drop. But I began to enjoy it, so...
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, that means that we did something right as a group for you to enjoy the game, so...
I didn't do any research and everything came fresh to me, and that's the way I liked it.
Awesome. Trashman!
Well, I'll add on to Drax's character. The... spells. Oh my god. So yeah, for me, if I remember correctly, I wasn't allowed to choose a rogue, which is my preferred class.
Well, that's the only class that you'd ever played prior. So it was I said to you, you can play anything except a rogue or a ranger, because that was pretty much what you were looking at.
And as for knowing what the campaign was about, vampire, that's it.
Awesome. I mean, and that was the cool thing. I think I'm not sure how much Fibble knew about it. I know he's been playing D&D for a long time as well, so he may have known again about the module. I don't know if he's played it before or read it, but I got the impression he hadn't played it prior either. So
I don't think he had.
And Fibble was, as said, for those that have played in Yanti's campaign or have been on Yanti's channel, when people know who Fibble is from that. Fibble, the character Fibble is from I Spy Peak, NPC in that module. And honestly, I think Sadiq played Fibble beautifully, even though Fibble's technically Dabbledob. There's a bit of a gender issue there, but it worked out for what it was. But Fibble destroyed me as a DM. I so many conversations with NPCs with Fibble, and even the conversation with Strahd and Fibble towards the end. Fibble was just weird, man, and Sadiq played it so well. Definitely one of my favorite characters of his thus far. And of course, Adok, Cam. Of course, you came from a Curse of Strahd, a partial Curse of Strahd campaign, so you had an idea, obviously, of what was going on there, but also too, because I'd asked you to play Strahd, you and I had talked at length about Strahd and his personality and what he would do and what he wouldn't do. I gave you as much creative freedom for those conversations as I could, and I think it turned out brilliantly. I mean, obviously towards the end we didn't need that quite so much because it was more about combat and things like that, but you want to just let everyone know that just what you knew versus what obviously whether you knew prior to your original campaign, how much you knew about Strahd.
Yeah, I pretty much knew a shit ton about Strahd and the module, but it's a similar thing as what Baz was talking about. With it being called the Curse of Strahd, it's hard to set aside just being completely against him at the start, but that's really kind of what I focused on, is actually just trying to disassociate what I knew about Curse of Strahd and the module and what it had in, and just literally in the moment just go, all right, I'm playing this person, what does this person know? Nothing. He knows nothing.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know if Strahd's going to be a bad dude. So I just tried to focus on the possibility that you as the DM literally could have taken this villain, flipped it on its head, and made it completely something else. Even though I knew it wasn't the case, I was just hoping that, I don't know, it's just a weird...
Yeah, I think initially I had that intention, and if Mirabelle hadn't exited the story when she did, and in the way that she did, I mean, I didn't have much time to sort of plan it and think about it, but that kind of set you guys, I think that set you guys on a path right from very early on, which wasn't a bad thing. It still played the story played out beautifully, and we had some amazing RP. But I did have that intention of trying to feed you guys the information that maybe you're here not to destroy him, but to save him. He's as trapped as you are. He is here through no fault of his own. Well, not so much no fault of his own. He's just trying to get out. He's trying to find a way to get out. And that was the intention, but obviously sort of things didn't play out quite as well as we'd hoped, and we ended up going down that one path. But as I said, it still made for a great story. I mean, even if you played the typical, the vampires are evil and we've got to kill the dirty old vampire, which is essentially what it came down to, it was still a lot of fun. And there was some really stupidly funny moments throughout the entirety of the story as well. So, Wayfold of his own? Come on. Why are you going to put that on the vampire, man? You're a downer, dude. So we did talk about it just briefly before. Zadrielle's oath change. Now, obviously Zadrielle started out with the Oath of the Ancients as her oath and tenets, but partway through the story, Zadrielle had come under the control of Lord Strahd and was utilized to stove in Emilia's head with her warhammer, which was something else we're going to touch on very soon too. So obviously, because of the story and the way that things had played out, Zadrielle's character changed. And so Zadrielle, aka Yanti, would you like to maybe give a little bit more insight into maybe when you decided that was going to be a thing, and why you decided to go that way?
Well, the team makeup, the way the team was going when Zadrielle was trying to lead this group, and there's all this contention, and her oath is all about joy and happiness and spreading it. And in Barovia, that's almost impossible to.
There was no joy in Barovia at all.
No,
I mean, such a dark and dingy place.
I felt like she was probably getting a little depressed, and then the thing happened with Emilia, and I saw the Oath of Vengeance, and I thought that's pretty much just straight after the enemy at all costs, no matter what it takes. I thought this is more for the story's sake, fits. So she switched.
Yeah. And I was more than happy to do that too, because you weren't switching deities. Your deity remained. You just changed how you... It wasn't even change how you approached your deity. It was just swearing that oath.
Service,
swearing that oath to see the death of Strahd, to see the end of Strahd, which unfortunately did not come to pass. But the change in Zadrielle was very subtle too. I think you did really well with that, not to just sort of jump into the new Zadrielle the moment you changed your oath. There were moments in the sessions after that where it sort of came through a little bit more apparent, and I think it wasn't really until the Amber Temple where we really saw that full switch. once you
Yeah.
guys got there, and things got a little dire on occasion within the temple, and then obviously the dark gifts had a part to play in that as well. One incident we're gonna have to mention through which pretty much became canon for the rest of the story was Zadrielle's caving in of the Valachian guard's head and exploding his brain matter all up the side of the Valachian jail. And it turns out that many a head was stoved in through the course of the story. And that was definitely a canon thing. Whenever Zadrielle scored a natural 20 or a high damage on anything, it was, and
It's like
its head explodes. It was I took great pleasure in describing those moments because exploding heads is fun and gory and very much the horror trope. So yes, the exploding of heads by Zadrielle became a very canon moment throughout the entirety of the session, which was great. I loved it. As did Karnos's drinking and balancing thing. We had a bit of fun with that too. So Baz, obviously you'd pre-made the character of Karnos and you had all his bits removed and everything, so you decided to keep that. If you just want to just give the viewers kind of the reason why you prefer to play that type of character, because I know you do it a lot where your characters, as much as you can min-max from
so badly flawed.
well, it's as much as there's it can be fun to min-max a lot of the time. I know you have a liking to doing things differently and playing the more flawed character, so just want to give these guys a bit of an insight into that, if you could, please.
So I run a lot of games myself, and I don't mind who plays what character. I've generally got not too many limits when it comes to character playing. If people want to min-max, they can min-max. If they want to, multi-class and make cool things, that's cool too. But for me, as a DM of years and years and years, when I play a character, I just want to do something different. So I take a look at a character. I think, what do I want to be? Do I want to be a caster? Right. If I'm a caster, why is this person a caster? Why, or how did they learn? And then I'm like, well, every person you ever meet has a quirk, or 2 or 3 or 5. Every person you ever meet,
several hundred.
Yeah,
like
everyone's got. Yeah, sorry, Trax, that was rude. And I've got quirks. Everyone does, but I accent those quirks of myself on the character. So when we talk about, say, even Brel over in the other campaign of Yanti's, I thought why not have this wacky ass quirk where he can't touch things and then give him wild magic to boot. So for Karnos, it was like he can't do anything sexually, even though he's the hero that the ladies are hopefully going to love, as well as he's got a drinking problem. I try to have things that are going to play off. Now, drinking problem's common in D&D, but I wanted to play it differently, so I thought, okay, I'll give him a drinking problem, and he's a neat freak.
Yeah, it wasn't really a drinking problem. It was, like I said, he was drinking to subdue the pain that he was feeling through the damage he'd taken to his hip and losing his bits and pieces. So it was more a medicinal thing, but people will always perceive it as a drinking problem, I guess.
For sure. And the other characters may have noticed, like, on occasions, Karnos was walking 5 feet slower than them most of the time at the beginning of the campaign, until later on in the campaign where he stopped having to have coins one at a time, or he stopped having to have to drink for more, because it was the relationship with Adok actually that changed it. I've written in my notebook where it happened.
I would have gone the deaths or the knockouts and things like that.
Well,
that probably helped.
Carry on with explain that. So what was it about Adok's character, well, Cam's character Adok, that changed Karnos in that fashion?
And so it's funny that Trashy should say that, because we're looking, and I think I talked to you, Evil, about the amount of times my character Karnos has actually gone to 0, and I thought that's going to be affecting him because he's going to be seeing dead side, and so he played on that a bit. But it was just he hated goblins to begin with. Then this goblin was actually showing them that he had a bit of guts and a bit of heroism himself, even though it was awarded from the other characters around him, because every character showed that they had the hero in them, which is what Karnos was looking for anyway.
Yeah.
And as they were all doing that, but I think he took this littlest guy, and not just because he was little like Fibble or little like Mirabelle, because he had the littlest courage, the littlest heart, the littlest everything, and then finally when it came down to it, he was actually really good, which is why when at the end when, near the end when we thought he'd killed Scathis, Carlos was like, what the hell? But there was a point there where they were giving coins back and forth to each other, and Carlos always had to give 2, and so it was working. It was a bit of a joke thing. But yeah, I think it was like the 3rd time Carlos died and came back, and I can't go through my book right now, I'll find it shortly, I guess, but something Adok said to him, and he just went, okay, and maybe I don't have to be so fussy anymore if this goblin doesn't have to be so cowardly anymore, and he tried to be less fussy with simple things like just having 1 drink, and it was hurting, but just giving 1 coin. And
that's cool though. I mean, that kind of character development is a lot of time. I mean, I certainly didn't notice it. I mean, even as a DM, but I mean, obviously I'm focusing on so many things. But I don't know did anyone else pick up on that? Did Adok pick up on that? Zadrielle as well?
Makes a valid point too.
I did a little bit because he either wasn't balancing as much and he wasn't.
I know it was mentioned a couple of times about not balancing. I can't remember who brought it. I think Scathis might have.
Drax texted in the chat frequently.
I was trying not to focus. I try not to read chat too much when we're playing, but because there's been some
between
so many distractions. But it's still a lot of fun. Yanni was just saying in chat there, I had no idea he had a drinking problem when I asked to make water to wine for flavour, because that was just a flavour thing.
Yeah.
So is that your own made up thing too, Yanti? Because I didn't realise that. I thought that was a pally thing for your oath.
No, well, there is a paladin, there is a spell, a cleric and a paladin spell called the ritual, which you can marry people and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But she just said, well, just for flavour. And can I turn water into wine? I thought, why not? I mean, it's not going to make any real difference. If you guys drink too much wine, you're going to end up making con saves and probably having some really drunken moments. So I thought, why not? And I didn't even think about it at the time because we'd sort of discussed your backstory, Anos, and well, that drinking thing makes sense. He's drinking medicinally to help with the pain. And
I think the best thing about it was he'd drink, he'd get his speed back up to 30 feet, so he was with everyone, but then he was having to make con saves to make sure he wasn't over drinking. He was keeping that fine balance. But I have a quick question for Yanti, because I don't know if you're going to touch on it or not, but I mentioned it in game and she avoided it, Carlos to Zedrielle. Why did she have a French accent and then slip out of it later on in game and then slip back?
Oh, yes, I was going to actually bring that up.
Because I didn't really have a French accent. It was between me and Fibble that I was gonna be guarded and hide who I really was so that no one could trace me back to Phandalin. But it never got touched on.
Zadrielle is not French.
Not French.
Well, I mean, there's no French.
Well, I mean, she did. That wasn't her native accent. It was definitely for the story. And I didn't even know about that until like almost halfway through. So I thought it was well done.
Up a couple of times as Carnos, but usually I brought it up in probably in really impromptu moments where things were happening and we didn't really get a chance to do anything about it. So.
So I mean, and the thing is with that too is when we look at that sort of character arc, I don't think it really came out. She slipped, I think, twice. On purpose.
Yeah.
Once was purely by accident, and I think at that time I caught it and said, "Okay, was that on purpose or was that accidental?" But I think it was twice, and once I remember in the Amber Temple for sure that there was a on purpose slip of her accent, and I don't think anyone succeeded on their check to see if they caught it. Fibble knew, obviously, so he didn't have to make the roll, but I think everyone else failed on the perception roll to see whether they caught the slip or not.
And there was a couple times in game that Fibble was like, "Why you gotta talk like that?"
That's right,
Z, why you gotta talk like that, Z? Nobody's here. It's just me.
Yeah, and that was kind of cool. So I guess another question we're going to go around. Obviously, we've already sort of done that with Emilia, with Drax and Emilia, where the character came from, and Baz with the pre-notion of the character. Zadrielle, Yanti, where did Zadrielle come from? What was the motivation for Zadrielle? And obviously, later on, Moriel became a thing after Magic played Moriel and my mini adventure that we did. And the connection between Zadrielle and Moriel there was made as well. So where did Zedriel come from? What was the inspiration behind the actual character? Not so much the class, but the character itself.
So Muriel and a female, which we later made fun of, was Baz's character in that one shot. Well, I forgot her name.
Oh, Hexakara.
Hex, but it's not.
That would be funny. I mean, it would be funny.
I was like, that'd be funny. But yeah. So Muriel and a woman from Phandalin that hasn't been revealed yet had Zadrielle, and he had to go off on a journey of his own and did not come back. And
So he went out for cigarettes and never came home.
Yep.
Okay.
Cigarettes, milk, never came back. And so Zadrielle was wanting to find her father, but then when the oath came in the woods, it was more of a chance to get to make things right, because Phandalin's like a little town where nothing happened, right? And Fibble promised her family that he'd take care of her, so she went out to look, but now she's not going to return, so...
Oh, well, she may return, potentially. I mean, next adventure group might set you guys free, you don't know.
Opens up from her story.
Great things about D&D, right? So, Adok, or same question for you. Where did the idea for Adok to come from? The idea of a grey goblin and making him a merchant instead of an actual proper adventurer?
I tend to much similar to Baz as well. I like to tend to make characters who are a little bit flawed. Perhaps I kind of make characters who are a little bit too flawed.
I don't know. I think Adok was great. I love flawed characters too. So
what I actually did was I usually do this all the time. I roll the dice, and then from the dice, I then sit there and go, all right, from these stats, what character best suits, or well, I first go, what class am I interested in, pick that, and then I roll the stats, and then I go, okay, what kind of life can reflect the stats that I've just rolled? And I rolled the stats that I have for Adok, which weren't high, like they weren't anything amazing. I actually got boosted in the original campaign because they were so shit. Adok's wisdom was... Yeah,
you failed failed most of your wisdom saves, I must admit.
Yeah. I think it was at a 10. I deliberately wanted to lower it just because I was like, I want to play with some negatives. So I'd already had a negative strength, and I was like, I wanted to give myself a negative wisdom. Wasn't the smartest decision. And then I kind of, I don't know, I just kind of reflected on a little bit. I think the best characters come from things that are a little bit true about yourself. So, and that's kind of where Adok came from. I kind of looked at the stats that he had and then thought, all right, what kind of life could he lead, and what's an element of truth that I can put into Adok's backstory that resonates with me, so that I can always play into that. And it was that idea of that sense of never really belonging, which is, being a grey goblin in a green goblin community, not really liked by the humans when he got picked up by this wizard, and then he's into this group where no one really is getting along with him. I kind of struggled with that growing up as a kid, so...
I think we probably all do that unconsciously a lot of the time too, is put some of ourselves into these characters. Trashman.
Oh, it's conscious. It's conscious.
Well, some of it's conscious. I think some of it's unconscious too. You just can't help it. I mean, obviously Trashman puts a lot of himself into his characters because he doesn't fucking talk very much. Hey, Trash.
I talk?
One thing I'll say, in Sanctum, you did really well. Definitely, as a talker. Not so much in this one, but I mean, that was, again, part of the backstory, so...
Because the character in Sanctum requires me to talk. This one doesn't.
But obviously, I think you did really well, though, with Scathis, because he didn't say a lot at all in the first quite a few sessions, and he started coming out a little bit towards the end, but then there was the fireball incident, and he went right back into a shell again. But it was...
Well, the only reason he started talking in the first place because someone cast command on him.
That's true. It was done more than once from my memory throughout the campaign.
Yeah, command was cast on him in the heat of a fight that was happening. That's when he fully opened up. Then, yeah, after the fireball, yeah, he just withdrew back into himself there.
Which made sense. So was there anything like, where did Scathis come from? I mean, I know we sort of discussed, and I told you we weren't going to play a rogue because that's your go-to character. I know you've played a lot of rogues and a lot of rangers or ranger rogues. It's definitely your go-to
Ranger's
class.
not so much. It's more been rogue. I've only ever played a monk once, and that was, I can't even remember when that was.
Well, you played a lot of 4.5, eh? Or was it 3.5?
3.5.
Yeah. So things obviously a lot of difference between 3.5 and 5, but
Yeah.
I liked Scathis. Scathis was a pretty cool character. I think he utilised his key points relatively well. Probably not as often as you maybe should have. There would have been some moments here that Scathis could have done so much better if you'd utilised your key points just a little bit more. But I mean, you played Scathis as you saw fit, as your character, and I think you did pretty well.
Really wanted to try charm person on Adok on stage.
It probably would have worked.
It would have worked with my wisdom.
But his wisdom was stupid low, so it probably would have worked. But yeah, so do we have I'll turn it over to the players now. Have you guys got any questions about the campaign? Questions for each other? And we're about 20 past 9, so we'll probably take a short break shortly. So we'll get.
I want to play it again.
You want to play it again?
Did you actually like your bear, or were you like, for fuck's sake?
No. Okay, so it changed. So at the start, absolutely. Adok did believe that this bear may have been infused with some DM's power, and that's why he felt more courageous, because he failed the checks to notice you were casting anything on it the entire time. But then I think there was something where he passed once. I passed and I managed to figure out that it was you doing it. But Adok decided to keep up the facade sort of thing. Going on. Because I don't know, this is me as a player, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool moment. I was like, I'm going to wait till Zadrielle's really low, and I'm going to be like, it was never about the bear, it was about you, sort of thing. But it just never came up, I guess.
Dude, what's up? You guys want to take a short break before we carry on? Or are you good to go? Let me know.
Well, Cam's good to go. He's just woke up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little hungry, but I'm always hungry.
I think we're all always hungry.
I'll go get a drink.
We'll take 5. Go grab a drink. Go to the bathroom. We'll come back in a minute, and we'll. Sorry, Cam. But yeah, go grab a drink. We'll come back in a minute. We'll get some questions from the chat, and I've got a few bits of information I'll give you guys that you may have missed through the story regarding the tower and a couple other bits and pieces. So we will be right back, chat. Don't go anywhere. What's up, chat? We're back. We're going to wait for Cam to come back before we ask Blue Jay's question. But yeah, so obviously tonight, for anyone that news come in, my name is Evildoer. We're predominantly a D&D channel. We do Dungeons & Dragons, or TTRPG, Dungeons & Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade. I make maps, I make monsters. We have a homebrew campaign running on Sunday nights currently, which has just started. We have just come to the end of our Curse of Strahd campaign, hence tonight's Q&A and epilogue for that campaign. Moving forward, Roasted Chicken, who is playing Adok the Grey, will be DMing a mini adventure, which many of the people you'll see here will be playing in it. And then following that, I will be running a mini adventure of my own, which I have prepared for. I've got a few. I remember the people that had put their names for it, but I will put a new poll up in the Discord in the coming weeks and get you guys to re-express your interest in that. Obviously, if I get more than the 4 players that I intend to run for it, we will put everyone's name into a roll table and we'll roll out 4 players. I will try and choose players based on those that haven't played in the previous mini adventure, so that we can sort of get a good rotation of players too. So, but that'll come up in the Discord. So if you want to be involved in those moving forward, make sure you join the Discord, !Discord in the chat. Also too, if you want to catch up on previous adventures, whether it's a mini adventure, the Curse of Strahd, the Vampire the Masquerade, it is all on my YouTube. !YouTube in the chat will give you that. Make sure you subscribe. Costs you nothing. Like those videos, because if the more likes you get on the videos, the more likely they are to be seen by others, and it helps the algorithm get the channel discovered as well. So Cam is back. So we have a question from the chat before I go on to a little bit that info I was going to give you guys. Blue Jay has asked in the chat, this is for everyone, would any of you have played your characters differently? So we'll start with Karnos, and we'll move around that way.
Definitely not. I think Karnos, Karnos was played the way I wanted to play him. Something I may have touched on with the other guys, maybe not so much in here. Initially, when I wanted to put a bit of a character to him, I just wanted him to be a bit like a heroic, like Pirates of the Caribbean style character, Jack Sparrow as a warrior sort of thing. And that's how I felt like I played him, and I feel like he felt like a fun character to play as well as quirky. So no, I'm happy.
Awesome. Zadrielle, same question.
I feel like I'd be more confident. I feel like Zadrielle's more confident and more of a leader, and sometimes I was like, I don't know what the hell to do in this situation with these people. So
I suppose that's probably a question of everyone. I mean, confidence is a big thing, especially playing in D&D. Especially if you're relatively new to it. I know. I mean, I can't really speak for anyone else. Well, maybe for Baz. I know Baz has always been fairly confident in playing a character. I've not really struggled playing characters or playing NPCs too much as far as on a confidence level is concerned.
My real life charisma is 20.
I think it's our family. We love to talk, so I think it's just easy for us. But yeah, so Drax, sort of looking back, would there be anything that you would do differently with Emilia? Looking back now from what obviously now you've played a few other games as well.
Well, there was one major moment where it was I clashed versus Emilia. In general, it was the fact that I wanted to keep her alive and do it, but Emilia never planned to hurt Strahd. And I had to RP that so that the party would go, sweet, she's totally against Strahd. And so basically I told him where to go. And Emilia wouldn't have, because she spent the whole time, the rest of the time, sort of like, she never did anything to insult him.
Yeah.
I mean, she never tried to. Like, when the party was like, the big image of him's there, I was saying basically, oh, burnt down Valaki, fuck you. Well, he didn't say that, but
I remember the moment, yeah.
The party's like, fuck you, we're raising our weapons to you, and Emilia's looking away. She's like, I don't want anything part of this. I don't want to hurt you at all. But I had to do it in order to keep myself alive.
And you did mention that to me after the session too, and it was kind of like, well, yeah, you kind of. I don't know that they would have killed you. I mean, this is something we could probably put to the party. We'll get these other guys answer this question first, and then we'll put that question to the party at that time, because I know we had sort of kind of discussed it with the group about what was happening with Drax being a new player and the way things were going. So we'll put that to the party in a moment. Anything else that you may have done differently?
I also did something that upset Vasily, and then I spent the rest of the campaign trying to find him again to apologise, and never saw him again.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that very shortly. That's what I was going to talk about that in a moment. So you'll find out something very shortly. Cam, same thing. Is there anything over the course of the campaign that you would have done different with Adok, perhaps now in hindsight, looking back?
I definitely, looking back, I think it's so tricky. I honestly don't think I got the whole high intelligence, low wisdom aspect correct, because he's supposed to be, I think Adok was presented and he did some definitely very questionable and low intelligent decisions, which I strummed up to, he's got low wisdom. But I think I kind of I would have played around and maybe looked into how to actually portray that a bit more effectively as well. And I think also Adok's charisma score wasn't that bad for a goblin. And I think
charisma was pretty good from memory.
Yeah, I leaned into the crux of I'm a disgusting, ugly-looking charisma, where I think I should have probably been a bit more. Did I say charisma or goblin? Anyway, I know
what you mean.
I probably should have cruxed into showcasing a bit more of his charismatic side from being a merchant. I think, I kind of just I don't really know towards the end. I just kind of got jumbled up, which that's all right, but shit happens.
I mean, because looking at his his charisma was 14, and he had an 18 intelligence, so he wasn't stupid. He was a very intelligent individual, but his wisdom was 8. So I think wisdom versus intelligence is kind of hard. I mean, what is wisdom and what isn't? I mean, we all know what intelligence is, but what is wisdom? I think it's a hard thing to sort of explain.
Yeah, when I'm explaining it to me,
it's how you use your intelligence wisely.
I always heard wisdom street smarts kind of, and intelligence is book.
And I think like I did portray that side, but then again, he's got a relatively high charisma, so it was confusing for me, especially with when we're having moments of RP. I'm like, well, I know Cam as the player in this moment, I should not say this, but Adok knows intelligence-wise, this is the best course of action. He's going to say this, but then with his charisma, would he? It's like a weird thing that I gave myself.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, intelligence is a pool of knowledge. It's how much you know, I guess, or maybe even how you perceive things. But that's the thing here. Intelligent wisdom things always confuse me.
So I explain it to my kids because when they do D&D characters, they're like, what's this, what's that, what's the other? And differentiating wisdom and intelligence, the easiest way I've found for new players and especially for my young kids is intelligence. I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt.
Any kind of an explanation is welcome at this point.
So intelligence is what you're learning and how you learn it and how you deal with those everyday things. That's how I explain it to the kids, right? Wisdom for this type of game is what you've retained over that life that you've lived. So it's not what you're learning now, it's what you've retained.
It kind of makes sense.
You're wise because, as the saying goes, wise to your years or beyond your years. So wise is usually associated with someone who's older, who's remembered something. So you can be intelligent as like the goblin is, a very intelligent character who learns things rather well, who has a great perception on things, great way of looking at, but is not retaining some of the things he learned earlier on in life, or not retaining it in such a way that it's utilized. So that's how I try to explain it to new players usually.
That kind of makes sense.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I guess, the biggest question to ask is, I guess I just throw it back to obviously the chat and the other players. Like, did you feel that I paid homage to what Adok's stats displayed, or not really.
I think you did. I think everyone did very well with their stats. I don't think anyone played. I mean, can you play a character wrong? I mean, regardless of your stats, realistically, unless you have a 6 intelligence and you're running around solving complex puzzles and things like that, I don't think you can really not play your stats well. I mean, there will be the occasional. I think it worked very well the way you did it, personally.
You were learning, for me, and I don't look at other characters' stats. I never do. It's not a thing I like to do as a player.
No, me neither.
As a DM, I look at stats, but as a player, I don't. Because at the end of the day, when you're playing it, your character was learning things quite well. The way he put out the things in the game came across well to me. And as far as wisdom was concerned, the things you should have learned through time, you were making the same mistakes again and again. So to me, that fits.
Classic example, just as you bring it up, Baz, classic example, the Amber Temple. How many times did Adok put his hand on that fucking piece of amber to get another dark gift? That's perfect. That's perfect lack of wisdom. I mean,
not wise.
He thinks that yes, I can get all this power. I can be great and powerful. That's intelligent to gain that knowledge, but then to not learn from the consequences that he was receiving was the lack of wisdom. So, yeah, I think that played off very, very well. Scathis, or Trashy, is there anything about Scathis, looking back over the course of the campaign, that you perhaps would have done differently with Scathis?
No. Just simple no. I'm happy the way I played him.
Are you, though? I mean,
yes.
Really?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
Absolutely.
So, forever the simpleton, I mean, the simple answer person. Trashman always giving the simple yes or no answers. Well done, Trash. But hey, if you feel that there's nothing you do differently, that's awesome.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and
I think you did very well. I mean, as I said,
from what I can remember, there was not much. Like I think from the character's perspective, always think from the character's perspective, where he's brought up. Like when he went ape over Adok casting that fireball at the
that made perfect sense. I mean,
good times.
I don't know if the Thunder Wave was the right approach in that instance. I would have kicked him off the back of the wagon. To be fair, I would have just I would have attacked him with my attack and used my key points. Like I said, to use your key points wisely. Just to give you an example, what I would have done: you got 2 attacks in the attack action. I would have kicked him and punched him, and then flurry of blows to kick him and punch him again. You had 4 attacks you could have had in that instant.
I was going with that. I was going with blind rage.
Again, monk, blind rage. You're going to go with what you know with your fists rather than. I mean, the Thunder Wave, it could have worked, but I probably would have looked at more from the point that the less saves he has to make, knowing he's probably got a high intelligence or constitution, things like that. But again, I mean, you make the decision in the time, and it worked. I mean, it worked either way, and I think the whole scene played out very, very well. Just again, I think looking at it from the outside, everyone could sit there and go, "Well, I probably would have played it a little differently," but it is what it is. So Cam, not Cam. Before we go any further, Emilia. We touched on this in the break. Just to give a little bit more context about Emilia and the way Drax created this character. Emilia was the first ginger in Sword Coast, by the way. Emilia Drax wanted to play a person with no soul, so he chose a ginger. But before we go and ask any more questions, I know we've got Cadmus has got a question there, and we'll probably pass them over to the players. Some other questions came up during the course of the game that I wanted to address, and Drax brought up Vasily before. Now, for those that didn't realize or may not have picked up on it, Vasily was not real. Well, he was, but he was Strahd in disguise, in polymorph. Strahd likes to be among the people and Vasily, when you actually look at the picture of Vasily, looks a lot like Sergei. He is essentially trying to portray his younger brother, be the gentleman, the person that helps everybody, and be the nice guy. Basically, trying to be what he is not currently, kind of thing. The other thing, Rick Tavio the bard that you guys met at the Blue Water Inn was none other than Van Richten, the vampire hunter. And the tower that you blew up was his tower. And the wagon that you blew up was Esmeralda's wagon, the other vampire hunter that you guys met before you killed Emilia.
What happened to her?
What happened to her? Esmeralda left you guys and proceeded to go to the Abbey as her plan was to do. She was going to the Abbey because it was rumored that Strahd was going to be visiting the Abbey to visit the abbot, who was creating a bride for him. So you guys would have more than likely stumbled across that when you were at the Abbey. But she was going to be waiting at the Abbey to try and ambush Strahd, basically. The wagon, Rictavio's wagon that was in Vallaki, luckily you guys didn't go poking around that because you would have had your faces bitten off by a tiger, sorry. There was a fully grown tiger inside that wagon, which Van Richten had trained to hunt down Vistani, basically.
Oh, we could have bred horse-tiger hybrids.
You could have. So I think that was about it as far as characters that may or may not have been who they seemed to be. But yeah, I wasn't sure whether you guys had picked up on the fact that Vasily was definitely not real in that respect. And he was a projected illusion at the dinner that you guys had with Strahd.
Yeah, I figured as much, but Emilia wouldn't have.
Well, you played that very well, so...
Oh, I'm with you, Drax. Baz had it sussed, but as far as I was concerned, Carlos wouldn't have got the picture.
Yeah.
Actually, for a while, I thought Adok was Strahd as well. And I remember saying it to you, Evil.
Yes, you did.
You were like...
You're muted, Cam.
I want to do that. Would have been cool. That would have been so goddamn cool. We should have done that.
I honestly,
right, let's go back, guys. Let's go.
I had considered it. I had at one point considered making Adok Strahd. I thought, nah.
For ages,
So cool.
for ages, Emilia was really toxic towards you, and that's because she thought you were Strahd. But she wasn't going to say anything because she's still fucking
She was in love with him.
Wooing him, basically.
Yeah, she's trying to just seduce Strahd. So Cadmus asks, how would the party approach their tactics differently to avoid the TPK in that final session? It's a very interesting question. Emilia wasn't there, so she can't really answer the question. But we'll start with Adok since he threw his hand up so quickly.
All right, one of a very, very thorough thing is just focusing one target at a time and then moving on. I think separating ourselves probably wasn't the main or the best course of events. I think trying to structure your defenses in such a way that you protect the backcasters and you focus down one thing at a time. And also as well, I'm fairly certain that using, I think, what did I use? Thunderwave that damaged Karnos. I was like, probably wasn't the smartest decision. I would have used
Probably not.
I would have used web, which is like restraining. I would have restrained a lot of the actual, because that's
You
all
used it
Adok spells
previously with the vampire
Yeah.
spawn at the Amber Temple, and it did work very well.
And Karnos, I know as a player, Karnos has a pretty good dex score, even though it's a little bit meta-y. But he has technically passed a lot of the web's DCs. But I know the vampires probably wouldn't have, so I probably should have used web to restrain them. It just would have changed the course of the combat. I did play that very, very stupidly.
Karnos.
So this is a two-edged sword, really.
It is. I mean, I will go through and I'll sort of say something as well at the end of this, but I'll let you guys sort of go through first.
So as far as trying to not get the party TPK'd for Karnos, and I don't disagree with Adok, we would have done better had we been together. However, the initiative wasn't in our favour, and we were actually separated by the enemy before we had a chance to get together.
That was
so
what I was
that
going
would
to
have been
talk
the
about.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Secondly, when you look at action economy, we were out action economy, and we spoke about this. Strahd was angry, and he was throwing everything at us because he'd had enough. We'd let Irina, his love, go, and straight away the Sun Sword was destroyed, showing. Well, I don't know why. I'm just assuming that was his anger. But at this point in time, I thought, okay, this is going to be like a real close nail biter. If we're going to stay alive, it's going to be because the dice are in our favour more than our fighting tactical skills. However,
that was the other side of the coin. The dice were not in your guys' favour, unfortunately.
They were not in the favour. However, I did have one ability I was holding on to. I had 2 spell slots left, and I had a new spell because I'd not a new one, it was one that I had access to that I just prepared, called, I can't remember what it's even called now, but basically it gave me, I think it was Divine Favour, and basically it gives me a D4
Divine Favour,
it gives me a D4
your prayer empowers you with the divine radiance until your spell ends. Your weapon attacks deal an extra D4 radiant damage.
D4 of radiant damage. So without the Sun Sword, I was going to hold on to that because I'd blessed everyone, and so that's concentration. And if I divine favoured, I would still be in concentration. It would have added the extra divine, and I feel like I may have been able to do a little more damage to the creatures around me utilising that with Adok there, and we probably could have. Yeah, had I accessed it, maybe, could be, might be, probably could have got out of that a little bit sooner.
It's one of those things, I think. Zedrielle, same question. Your views on the TPK, and do you think there could have been anything you guys could have done to avoid it?
I went in knowing from my Oath of Vengeance that I would go right for Strahd, and I would never deviate from just going right for Strahd, but I probably should have told everyone to go for him as well and just narrow him down. So I either would have divine smited him to death, and I had Abjure Enemy, which would give him disadvantage, but I didn't. And then,
so I agree with you, Zadrielle. I was going to do the same thing. I was actually going to jump in and help you, but I just got tied up.
You got swamped.
Yeah, no. That, or I could have done Aura of Vitality and gave some healing every turn for my aura, but I didn't want to stop midway and then go, which I did, which I think got us killed a little bit quicker. But I would have narrowed it. I would have whittled him down because I saw him getting bloody, and I was like, "Oh."
Well, you definitely done damage, but not as much as you think you did. I'll again fill in a few details in a moment.
That's all it was.
Scathis, same question for you, Trash. Do you think that how do you view the TPK? I mean, do you think Scathis may have done something differently I think Scathis was the only one to kill anything, which was one of the werewolves. I don't think you guys killed anything. You killed one. Zadrielle may have killed one as well. You did, actually. You killed one of the vampire spawn as well. So, out of I think it was 8 or 9 mobs here, you killed 2.
Well, for Scathis, I believe he's the one that likes to try and not so much control an area, but take the heat off the heavy hitters.
I think everyone did what they thought their characters would do, and I think that's the key there as well. It's not so much what you could have done to avoid a TPK. I mean, you got into a situation where, as Baz says, the initiative roll definitely didn't go in your guys' favour. Strahd got the top of the initiative right off the bat, and I think there was 3 or 4 of the vampire spawn and werewolves before you guys got your initiative, and then all of you kind of sort of went all at one time. I think it was only one of you that was separated from the group, which gave the rest of the monsters more opportunity to move and attack. Pack tactics with werewolves definitely gave them the upper hand, which is why they swamped Scathis. Vampires swamping Karnos, tying him up into combat as well, was another. Again, it was a tactic on purpose. Tie Karnos up, tie Scathis up, get 2 or 3 mobs on both of those characters, because it gives the advantage to those monsters and flanking and such. I knew Zadrielle was going to go straight after Strahd as per her vengeance, which made perfect sense. I knew Fibber was going to hang back as much as he could, utilize his range, and I knew without the Shield Guardian he was going to be vulnerable. So the decision to leave the Shield Guardian behind, whether it was a good decision or not, I don't think it really mattered. It could have changed the outcome a little bit, I don't think it would have. Strahd had over 300 hit points. Plus he had an amulet, or what was called, it was a heart of something or other, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but that gave another 50 hit points on top of that, which basically temporary hit points, which he was able to utilize at his discretion. So he used 40 of those before he even took any damage. He heals 25 hit points every turn, unless obviously what Zadrielle did stop that for at least 2 turns. So he didn't regenerate for those 2 turns. But he also was able to heal himself on a couple of occasions with a couple of his abilities. So I think from memory, you guys got Strahd himself down to about 255. So he hadn't taken a whole lot of damage. The vampire spawn, all of them were less than 5 hit points. You guys were so close to killing all. I mean, another fireball ad hoc, you would have decimated pretty much all of the vampire spawn around Karnos in that area. Scathis had killed one of the werewolves. I think Zadrielle had one of the werewolves down to under half. She had one of the vampire spawns at her under half as well with what she was doing. She'd already killed one vampire spawn, and it was just, again, that fireball from Strahd, the blight that he cast on Karnos to drop Karnos, and it was again just dice rolls. I think I rolled 9 natural 20s through that encounter, and I think you guys rolled a couple, but there was a lot of low rolls, a lot of misses, and just because I don't think you guys let yourself get separated. It was just initiative and tactics on my part as well, which was to separate you guys, because together you guys were strong. I mean, I watched you guys through multiple combats through the entirety of the campaign, focusing creatures and taking them down in one turn as you guys focus things down. And classic example, Bubble of Saga and the hut, even though you struggled against the hut because of what it was and the amount of damage it was doing, you took Bubble of Saga down to 10 hit points very, very quickly, which is why she left. She ran because she was low on health. And you only struggled against the hut because it had 3 attacks. It was averaging sort of 50 damage every hit, and you guys took a lot of hits. So I think you all did very well in your combat across the board. So I don't think, sort of watching it back, I don't think you could have avoided that TPK at all, even if you'd altered your tactics.
One thing that I forget about a lot, and I think when you look at any game I've ever DM'd, everyone tends to forget about it because it's an action, unless you're a rogue. Disengage. A lot of us forget about the disengage action. You can actually disengage safely out of a fight and move to
as
another
an
target.
action.
Yes, you give up your whole turn, as you give up your action at least, but it can get you into a more advantageous position. And I did think about that after the fact, that that's one of the things that a couple of us could have done to get onto Strahd and start beating him down a bit more. But it's that always hindsight 2020 yada yada.
It is too. I mean, and Fibble, once Zadrielle went for Strahd, Fibble focused Strahd as well. So he was making shots at Strahd. I think maybe if Addoc had done the same, there may have been a slight turn of events there. But again, I think it just comes down to, obviously you make decisions in the moment based on not only your character, but dice rolls as well play a huge part in D&D. Obviously it's a big part of the game. And unfortunately, as I said, I think it was just on that night, the dice rolls were definitely in the DM's favor. You guys utilized your advantages and your bless and everything else very, very well. In fact, I think Fibble, he used a lot of his advantages, and he still had heaps left over from what he was telling me. So again, I don't think we really could have avoided it, honestly. It kind of is what it is. So I'll again turn it over to you guys as players. Any other questions or thoughts in regards to the story? I mean, I guess actually the biggest question I can probably ask all you guys, from a player's perspective, was the story engaging? Did you enjoy the story? Would you play it again based on your experiences playing this module? We'll start with Baz.
Yes, and yes.
I'll start with Trash since you piped up first here. You give us a bit more than a yes, dude.
I absolutely love the story. Yes, I want to play another version of it. like different people or same people, different characters. I don't care. I'd love to do it again. It was fun. Enjoyed every minute of it.
Cam.
Yeah, I want to. This is actually one of the modules that I want to run as a DM.
Well, there you go, Trash.
I mean, I've got the other one that I'm doing, the little one shot that's going to go however long it takes. But this is the one that I do want to run. A couple of things that I want to do as well is just from straight off the bat make everyone a human, because it forces them to try and think more about their character and interesting sort of quirks and stuff like that. And there's a lot of other different things that are interesting with that. But I also like the idea of, as Baz was saying, taking the title, and I think if I were to do it, I would change the title completely. I was chatting to Evil about it a little bit before. I agree, like changing the title so it's not Curse of Strahd, changing the names of the locations and whatnot. So just so you kind of already have your players in the ballpark of, is this homebrew? You kind of get what it is, but so much has changed that you don't really know what's what anymore.
This gives you a little bit of that uncertainty. It takes away that, okay, I know what the story is, but oh shit, is it the story? Things are different.
Exactly. So
you could even change Strahd's name just to make it, make, even if you made it as if it was a homebrew module, names and places are changed, but the idea is the same, and you'd probably get away with that.
Well, I was actually thinking that just changing up the villain, like the Strahd, quote unquote, could have been any other different characters. Roll a dice and be like, that's who Strahd is, and you don't know until it gets to the end, sort of thing.
Strahd could be Ismark, for an example, or a character that is like Ismark type character. So I think that would probably be definitely a way to do it based on that. So that's just based off. I did enjoy, and I do thoroughly enjoy the theme, the story itself. I'm a big fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula too, and I just think the backstory about Strahd, there's just so much that you can do with it that really intrigued me. Zedrielle had to take off. The dog had to go out, so we'll skip her for the moment. Drax, are you there? I know he's there somewhere.
He just BRB'd as well.
Okay, well, we'll go to you then.
So yes, I like the campaign. Did I like every part of the campaign? No. I had my moments where there was just, for me, I feel like we had some lag points, and I think it was just some RP moments. And I know we're all trying to be nice and polished everyone here, but I felt I had RP moments that maybe dragged, and I thought, fuck, Baz, you just got to shut up sometimes. Because sometimes you're trying to do or say something that probably isn't important, but you want to get it out. And that's
like
not
your
just
storytelling.
me. No, that character part was fine, and
I mean,
I always felt like that was a quick thing, but
yeah, I tend to agree. There are, I mean, even I think we're all our own worst critics. I think at the end of the day, and I can sort of look at it and go back, and there are probably some moments here. There's definitely some moments I would change from a DM's perspective, because I felt they were just either unnecessary or maybe too overindulgent in some areas, and it just didn't make sense. Sort of made sense at the time, but later on when you look back on it, I think, maybe not so much. But and there were definitely some of those sort of, as you say, lag moments that stick out for me too. I mean, not too many, but
no, I agree. It wasn't many. It was just the odd occasion. I felt like, and I think the players, all of us, congested that somewhat. Sometimes we'd be having a chat moment and it was awesome. Other times we'd be 3 days of traveling for whatever reason. We'd seem to drag it out longer, and because we're playing maybe 2.5 hours, I felt like sometimes that it felt like we actually did nothing for an entire episode. And
pretty
I
much,
Jesus, what did we just do? Did I just talk that episode away? So yeah. Otherwise, yes, I'd love to play it again. But yeah, if there was anything I could change for me, probably when I DM something from now on, I'll look at my travel montages and what the characters are going to say, and maybe just give everyone okay, you've got a couple of minutes each. Here we go, and move it on.
I think that exactly that is. I think travel was probably one of the biggest things I would probably change as a DM moving forward, which is something I'm looking at for campaign 2. I've already implemented in campaign 2 is skipping over a lot of that travel, because a lot of it can be unnecessary and it can get a little boring. I think
if there's purpose to it, absolutely. Yeah, but and like I say, I'm not putting anyone down. It's that constructive criticism thing.
100%.
For me myself, I talk a lot, and even I've watched a few episodes back to sort of think, where was I going with that? Watch it back and go, oh my god, I was talking some shit there.
Zadrielle, same question to you. Did you enjoy the story? Would you want to play it again based on your experiences with our campaign?
I agree with some of what Bazzy says, but if I did it again, I would like to see a different spin on it. I would like to see like a different kind of like we've talked about different ideas and stuff, but I'd like to see like a little bit of a different what the hell view on Strahd. Maybe some of the bad guys, maybe make them more. I can't find the word.
I think I get what you mean, though. Like,
yeah,
you can go a couple of ways. You can make it more gritty and more dark, a lot more darker. I mean, but like Cam says, altering the title of it, changing NPCs' names, changing the big bad name, taking Strahd out of it altogether, and making it someone else. Definitely would change up the story to a point where you're not sure exactly what's going on, kind of thing. And I think that comes. Yeah, I think, like, I tend to agree. The title of the module is probably the worst thing they could have done was calling it The Curse of Strahd. Because right off the bat, I think a lot of people go into it with that preconceived notion, which can taint the RP a little bit, even unintentionally. So it's one of those things. Drax already said in the chat, but I'm going to make you say it anyway, Drax. Drax, same question to you, dude. I mean, being your first, and this is probably a little different for you, because this was your very first campaign in D&D. Since then, you've been involved in a mini adventure with me, and you're involved in Yanti's I Spire series as well. So obviously it's obviously hooked you on D&D, otherwise you wouldn't be involved in so much other stuff afterwards. So obviously, did you enjoy it? Would you want to play this module again specifically?
But yes, I did enjoy it. It obviously got me hooked. Definitely got me hooked on D&D. I did enjoy the module, and I would love to play it again. I'd love to play a druid again. I enjoyed the caster, which I do have the cleric on Yanti's campaign, but it's
a multi-class too, though. So.
Yeah, it is a multi-class. So yeah, the druid. I did enjoy the druid. I'd definitely like to try that again. And the hard thing that I'm not sure about is if I played the same module again, if I'd fight the urge to metagame.
I think that's the key too, though. Going into something you already know is, even for a seasoned player, it's hard to forget what you know sometimes, because it's there. And during RP, you get into the moment, and then you might just say something that you know as a person that your character may not know, and it kind of just comes out, and I think it just does. That does happen. Yeah. And if you've got a good group and a good DM, I don't think that matters too much, because you've got a good DM and a group that can normally just skip over it and not focus on it. The moment you focus on something like that, I think that's when it becomes an issue. If you can sort of skip over it and not panic about it too much and just carry on with the RP, I don't think it becomes a major problem.
See, that's what I never watched any of the Curse of Strahd D&D. Like, if someone was streaming it and you hosted it, then I wouldn't have watched it, because I didn't want to find out what was going to happen.
Fair enough too.
I don't know if Yanti's campaign is a module. I assume it is. Sorry. Yeah. I know it's a module. I don't know if she's modified it or anything. And I know Paradigms is one of its own.
Yeah. Strahd, I did modify a lot in Strahd, not huge. Like, I didn't change names and places and stuff like that, but there was definitely homebrew in there. I played NPCs the way I believe they should be played, as opposed to how they were written, because some of them are written badly, I must admit that. If you read through the module, some of the NPCs just are so two-dimensional and just have no substance to them, and it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So
So I really enjoyed the NPCs in Strahd. I don't know about the rest of you. I found every NPC to be pretty engaging, which was a good thing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. I'm glad, because that was obviously the intention was to make sure that you guys felt that they were a definitely more humanized character. I mean, like I said, you go through some of the basic descriptions on the NPCs. It's like, man, that's kind of bland. I mean, it doesn't really give you much about their character at all. So it was like, man, I got to spice this up a little bit. We got to make them a little bit more interesting. Like Essek, as an example, in Vallaki. And if you read the module, he would probably never speak to you guys, based on what they give the description. It was like, well, no, well, I'm going to make it a little different. We're going to engage somewhere along the lines. But I think it worked reasonably well. And I definitely would love to not only run the module again in a different vein, but I'm really keen to play it. Because again, it's one of my favourite modules, and it's right up my alley with the horror stuff as well. So in the future, keep your eyes on the Discord and stuff, because Mr. Chicken may indeed offer to run a Curse of Strahd inspired module.
Curse and Strahd.
Curse and Strahd, yeah. Well, Curse and Strahd.
Someone.
Yeah.
Could you transcribe it to Cthulhu rules?
I'd say you
Dark,
possibly could.
gloomy.
I think you could.
Yeah.
I mean, sanity. I mean, I think it would
Move
be
the
easy.
Move the time zone a little to not be
Yeah,
medieval.
I mean,
move it,
Dracula,
move it
man.
forward a bit.
Look at. I mean, it's based on Bram Stoker's book, so it'd be easily moved into
Base
the
it at that.
1900s, or the 1800s, 1900s. So, yeah, I think it would be easily moved into the Cthulhu world without too many hassles at all.
Excellent.
I don't really have any more questions for you guys. Have you guys got any more questions for each other? For me, chat, over to you as well. We've still got maybe half hour before we got people that have to go. Anybody at all? Man, you guys
I'm
suck,
just reading my
man.
notes. I have questions.
Right, I knew Baz would have a question.
Yeah, I wrote them in my notebook, but I wrote them through all the different campaign bits, so I have to quickly.
Did Scathis get his hand back? No, he didn't. He would be walking to the gates of Barovia handless, because and technically Scathis is going to get pooped out all over Barovia because he was eaten by werewolves.
Does the hand have to make the walk as well?
Yeah, probably his hand's probably going to come back as a crawling claw.
Thinking of the thing from Adam's
Okay, well,
family.
Baz is trying to find his question.
yeah.
Oh, you got it.
I got it. Yep,
Oh.
I got it. So, a couple of things. So we lost the dude that went into the Amber Temple with us.
Casimir, yes.
Casimir, that's right. Now, my question about him was, and it's probably the same for a couple of them that travel with us. Esmeralda being the other one. When they left us, was that something that was part of the campaign, or was that purely because of the RP that was going on with the characters that was kind of rude to them?
That was
And
purely
that little mage dude in the Amber Temple.
that was all you. The reason they left was purely because of the RP that was going on at the time. I was making dice rolls in the background.
I blame Haddock.
I will tell you exactly what happened. Three NPCs that could have potentially aided you guys in various ways. Obviously, Van Rictavio. In the module, they suggest that Van Richten would observe the group, which he was doing while you guys first turned up at the in Vallaki and the Blue Water Inn. He would assess whether you would be able to aid him or not, or be a hindrance to him, because he prefers to work alone. Based on what you guys were doing when you first entered Vallaki, and the fact you guys got yourselves arrested, and all that stuff that was going on there, Van Richten decided that he would not seek your assistance because he believed you would be more of a hindrance than an aid to him. So that's why eventually Rictavio left, and you never saw him again. Casimir wasn't exactly the nicest of people either. So he used you guys to get to the Amber Temple because he was getting too old to get there by himself. And he was going to use you guys to gain the spell, and then he was either going to kill you in the temple, or leave you there and leave with the spell. So either way, whether and his decision to leave you there was by not only the RP that was going on, but also Strahd had instructed him to do so and to shut you into the temple. Because he was ultimately working for Strahd, and he wanted the scroll to resurrect someone for Strahd, not his sister. And that was my spin on that part of it. In the module, he was the good guy. I thought, none of these guys are good guys. If they're with Vistani, they're not good. They're all bastards. As you guys eventually said when you blew up the wagon, that they're all bad. They're all evil. Doesn't matter. And you were right on the money with that. There was no way that he was ever going to let you guys leave that temple with that spell. But Strahd had other ideas, which is why when you did come out of the temple, Strahd was waiting for you because he wanted the holy symbol of Ravenkind. That was the whole reason he was there. As far as Esmeralda was concerned, that was just, that she, on the conversations with you guys at the cave and stuff, again, she just did not see you guys being a cohesive enough group to be able to succeed in what she wanted to do. And she thought she'd be better off on her own. So she was going to help you no matter what. I mean, if you guys got to the Amber Temple, she would have possibly have still been there, and if Strahd had shown up at that point, she would have definitely aided you in your battle. She was definitely a good guy, but she just didn't see you guys as potential allies. And again, based on a dice roll. Yes.
The apprentice in the Amber Temple. What happened to him?
He left. He turned himself invisible, and then he flew. He had the ability to cast fly on himself with the staff that was handed over, and he left. He managed to get through a crack using the flight ability. He was never going to stay. Once he got that staff, he was out of there. He didn't want a bar of it. He didn't want a bar of you. He didn't want a bar of the temple. Didn't want a bar of it. He just wanted to get out. That was his whole. He was almost as terrified as Adok, and just wanted to get out. Adok certainly didn't help the situation. We'll say that as well. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. For the most part, it was just based on roleplay and dice rolls.
Yeah, the Amber Temple was a dark part.
You guys spent a lot of time at that Amber Temple. I think it was 7 sessions? Almost 7 sessions, I think you were inside the temple. The dark gifts, I made some slight alterations to the gifts before we even started the campaign. So I read through them, and some of them I thought were too harsh, and some of them I thought weren't harsh enough. So I made some slight adjustments. I made some adjustments based on classes, depending on the spell. Obviously, what happened with Zadrielle was very much tied into the fact that she was a paladin. It would have affected Kaunos in much the same way, probably not to the extent, because obviously you weren't a full paladin, but it definitely would have affected you in a similar fashion, based on the fact that you were a paladin. But some of those dark gifts were funny, others were pretty nasty. So Magic's got one here too. For DM and players, what did you have planned during the story that either didn't happen or took a turn you did not expect? Ooh, as a DM, lots. There were many moments during RP or decisions the players made that had changed everything that I had to do in that session. Forces a lot of improv and things like that, which definitely, I mean, I enjoy that kind of thing. Same as with campaign 1 with the murdering of Neymaris. I didn't see it coming, you roll with it, and you sort of deal with these things in the moment. Trying to think of one off the cuff that, well, actually, classic example, Zadrielle wanting to go talk to the guards at the jail, with Kaunos getting himself arrested, and then them turning up and Zadrielle caving that dude's head in. I didn't see that coming, and we sort of rolled with it, and it kind of turned out the way it turned out in the end. But I don't think the players had any idea that Kaunos was doing what he was doing either, so they played it as they sort of saw that moment. So I'll turn it over to you guys for that, because there you go, players. Did you have anything planned during the story that did or didn't happen or took a turn that you didn't expect? Start with Carnos.
Yeah, there's a couple of places that took turns that I didn't expect. I didn't realise, because I don't know anything about Strahd other than the rough sort of guidelines. I didn't realise those people in the city were going to be so sad. However, you know, tossing money into the street to see what their reactions would be like, and then getting arrested because of, you know, having an opinion or doing things maybe that was a bit outrageous. But the main thing I think was, and I talked to Evil about this before the campaign even began. I said to him, look, Carnos is not a leader character. He's quite happy to have a speak. See, you know, he's really a follower. He's good at being, and you know, who gets sent to do a job, he does it, comes back, and that was the whole idea of being sent from place to place via a portal. So the idea for Carnos was he was never to be a leader character, but the problem we had was, and it was especially at the beginning of the campaign, righto, so what are you guys doing? And silence.
A good 3 or 4, at least 2 or 3 minutes of absolute silence.
And so and I noticed it was either Yanti or myself was like, okay then, one of us would usually kick it off. And so I found Carnos being more of a talker when he wasn't, like, he was meant to be a talker when someone asked him a question about something and then he'd give them a story. That was his idea. Not meant to be just a talk for the sake of talking, but I don't know, I just felt like I had to fill that empty void. And me and Yanti I think we even talked about it, didn't we, Yanti, about, God, there's this void where it just it just says awkward silence, but it's over Discord and whatever. And so for me, I didn't plan to be that much of a talker after Hit, but it just sort of took that turn. I didn't expect there to be so many silences, so it did. Yeah,
but it got better as the campaign went forward. Definitely, 100%.
But I feel by that stage I'd warmed up to Carlos talking a little more, and so yeah. So that's it for me, I think.
Zadrielle.
I plan to kill Emilia from the very get-go. And every time I'd be like, think out this plan, it gets thwarted by somebody saying something special. And I'm like, okay, next time. Get it next time. And then when Carnos had her over the stump, I was like, yes! And then he missed. I was like, well, you know. And then, Emily,
and then Carnos took it away from you when you did kill her in the end anyway.
I know, right? Finally, I give him a moment. He's like, I'll do it for you.
It made sense. Right. It made perfect sense for the moment too. So.
But the friendship with Emilia was nice, though. Yeah. I thought that was good. Yeah,
we're going to touch on that briefly in a second as well. Adok.
Oh, God, no.
Adok, any moments you had planned that may not have turned out exactly how you hoped?
Yeah, pretty much all of them. There was a moment where I transformed into a dwarf, and you're like, there's no dwarfs in Barovia. So I was trying to make friends with the blacksmith, and I was I do that. Yeah. So that kind of went to hell in a handbasket. Any sort of interaction I had with an NPC just did not go well.
No, you struggled. I think you struggled a little bit with the NPCs. I mean, Adok was very blunt in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you struggled.
Designed that way.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I set out the intention that Adok had been this character who had already been through the throes of Barovia, had already trusted a party, lost a party, fought with a party, and all that kind of stuff. So my idea coming into it was, Adok was going to, at the end of the day, betray everyone. The first chance he got to leave, he was going to take it. I didn't expect to actually... I feel Adok then started to develop some relationships with particular people, and even though still argued with a lot of people, actually still kind of felt at home with these misfits. It's kind of unique that everyone was legitimate misfits. Like no one.
100%. I mean, your guys' group was so fractured right from session 1, and it remained fractured pretty much the entirety of the campaign. It was very. I mean, there were moments, definite moments of sort of, and there were definitely bonds made. But every time you guys sat down and talked about something, you were all fucking arguing with each other about something. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just I just didn't expect for Adok to change his point of view on everyone, and I guess grow a bit of a heart and a bit of a backbone. I didn't expect that at all.
Trashy.
What was the question again?
Any moments that you planned for Scathis, perhaps something you planned to do that maybe didn't turn out exactly how you hoped?
No, not really.
Nothing at all. Man, trash.
Probably not drinking with Emilia. I shouldn't have done
I mean,
that.
that was definitely a moment that stood out, 100%.
Passing out in Emilia's bed.
Yeah,
that's
Probably
not a good
not,
idea.
probably not the finest moment.
No, definitely not. That's about the only moment that really stands out for me. That should never have happened.
Oh, and then it just got worse as it got carried on. It was great.
Yes.
So nothing else for you, Emilia? I mean, even though you sort of weren't with us for the latter part of the campaign, obviously. Any
Yes.
moments that Mr. Drax had planned that didn't turn out exactly how you wanted?
There was two that I can think of. One was in general Emilia's death, because I knew that you said that you usually count your odds as bad rolls.
Yeah,
And then I
ballsed
rolled
that up.
3 odds.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I got shitloads of advantages, but fuck it. That's what I rolled. I'll just deal with it. The other thing was, I had expected more of the party to be edible for my character going into the campaign.
And this is the thing about Curse of Strahd too, and vampirism and lycanthropy. They generally only affect humans, and not the other race. Lycanthropy can affect the other races, but in general, vampirism is a human-only disease, and I think it even mentions it in the module, so which is very interesting.
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh yeah, sweet. There's going to be vampires, so there's going to be heaps of people here who are going to be affected by it. So I'll have heaps of people to drink,
Not so
and
much.
then there wasn't.
I mean, there's plenty of humans in Barovia, and plenty of soulless humans that Emilia could have gone after too. But it just didn't quite happen that way.
No.
One thing I will say is the lycanthropy thing. Scathis, you remember that con save that you failed in the combat? Yeah, you failed and you had contracted lycanthropy. If you had not have died within 1d4 days, you would have turned into a werewolf.
Sweet.
And been under Strahd's direct control.
Might have grown your hand back.
He may have grown his hand back. I don't know how that works. You would have been a three-legged werewolf.
I don't think it works like that. I think it works if you lose it while you got it.
Yeah,
it grows back, but
you definitely would not have had that paw. You would have been three-pawed werewolf. But yeah, as far as the DM stuff, like I said, for DM, I try not to plan too much. There are some things that obviously you want to get to specific points. For the most part, most things sort of panned out as they should have, but there were also a lot that didn't as well. I don't think anything really sort of stands out apart from obviously the Karnos deciding to get himself arrested and the reaction from the group. Definitely didn't expect or see that, and that sort of just played out as it played out. Balaki doesn't have a jail in the module, so that I had to create when Karnos decided to go there. It's like, fuck, what am I going to do?
Turning into a horse on top of someone
Yeah,
carrying
that was kind of weird too. But it was still all those little moments that sort of stand out and sort of happen. But yeah, it was all pretty funny. One thing, what did you say, Drax? There was something here. Van Richten's tower seemed back up towards the end there. That was just Barovia. Barovia is a realm inside the Shadowfell. It's one of the biggest domains of dread inside the Shadowfell, and essentially it's on a great big reset. It's Strahd, when the mantra that Strahd uses in the chant that you guys had in the Death House said, "I'm the ancient, I'm the land," everything is tied to Strahd. Like he is an ancient sorcerer. He's a 400 plus year old vampire, but the Shadowfell itself controls the land and him. he is trapped there, just like everyone else, which is part of the whole story. He was, when he made his transformation into a vampire, he is bound by the borders of Barovia, just like the people he takes there as his playthings. He does not have humanity anymore. He's been inhuman or undead for so long that his humanity is gone. So, which is why he generally, when he gets angry, it's because of things like the reuniting of Irina and Sergei. That angered him, because that was the one constant, was him pursuing Irina to get Tatiana back. I mean, she was the requited love kind of thing. So seeing those two reunited just angered him to the point of, you guys are dead. And as Baz said in that combat, he was going to throw everything at you. In the module, and everything I've read about Strahd specifically stated, whenever Strahd attacks the group or faces the group, he will do so at putting himself in the most advantageous position possible. He will attack you after you've been in a combat situation already. When you're low on health, you're low on spell slots, you're low on everything else, and then he'll attack you. He'll bring you to the brink of death and then leave you bleeding in the snow and just let you lick your wounds for a week before sending a pack of wolves out to run you down and keep you awake all night, kind of thing. He is the ultimate cat and mouse game for him. He just will do everything in his power to wear you guys down to a point where essentially what happened. He'll just then get bored and go, okay, well, nah, none of you guys are worthy to succeed me. That's it, you're dead, kind of thing. So, had Karnos gone to the castle on his own, he would have offered Karnos the throne. If Karnos had turned up to the castle with a group, he would have killed you on the spot. Once you got to the castle, he gave you free passage to the castle, but once you were in the castle, he would have attacked you, because he didn't specifically say, but he implied that you came by yourself. He offered you the mantle, not anyone else, although it wasn't specifically said. So again, it were just little things that sort of the sacking of Vallaki, not in the module. That was mine. And that was just, that was me being a little bit vindictive as a DM, saying, well, you guys are spending a lot of time in Vallaki. That's your home base. That's your safe place. But then you sort of think about it from a vampire's perspective, or Strahd's perspective. He kind of knows that all this is going to basically reset. He knows he controls all this. So why not wipe it out, take away that safe space, have you guys nowhere safe to stay? You're now having to stay outside in the wilderness where you are vulnerable, and taking away that safety of a walled community. So that whole Vallaki thing, killing almost everyone in Vallaki, was what I planned outside of the module. Just to be different.
Going back to Magic's question before, of something that was planned that didn't go according to plan. If, and I stress if, the group had resurrected Emilia, they had gone and they managed to kill Strahd, I had planned to take Strahd's throne. I had not planned to leave Barovia.
Yeah, cool.
Because
I think you sort of said that to me at one point too.
Emilia was hunted in the other lands.
Yeah.
So she knew she couldn't return. So she was going to take his throne and sit on it. That was
take his face and sit on it. I mean, his throne.
Yeah, either or.
I kind of expected it. I mean, I didn't expect. Actually, one thing I didn't expect was Karnos to sort of go, maybe I'll take you up on that offer. So that was one thing I wasn't really expecting.
See, that was the hero though. When you spoke about it with Karnos at that last sort of juncture, it was the case of, hang on a minute. Okay, are you saying if I take your place, that everyone else will get out and live? All right then. And that's how he was looking at that. Not so much from a standpoint of, I want to be a vampire, I want all the power. It was more the case of, as a hero, that was that self-sacrifice scenario.
Which, I mean, so that was the intention. The intention was to offer that to Karnos for that reason, and to see if he would sort of go down that road. But I didn't actually expect the consideration. So that was a little bit of an unexpected moment. So
had Strahd said directly, come alone, and it happened, I think Karnos would have done it. I think he would have just gone.
Again, looking at the whole Strahd thing, he's very cryptic. Not like he never says anything overly specific. As you guys pointed out in a few of your RP sessions, he lies without lying. He omits the truth. He tells half truths. He will tell you one thing but do something different. Example, Mirabelle. I said I was going to let you guys know exactly what happened to Mirabelle. Strahd did come and take her in the mist as through the RP. The reason Zadrielle's divine sense did not pick him up, Strahd has a specific ability which enables him to mask himself from that. There is a specific spell, which I think I can tell you what it is. I think it's Divine Intervention or something. It literally makes him invisible to divine sense.
Yeah, I've got it. So I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, you can mask it. You can make yourself seem like something else.
Yeah, and that was one thing that was very specific to Strahd. Let's have a look here. Here he is. I can tell you exactly what the spell is. Non-detection. For the duration, you hide the target. Hide a target you touch from divination magic. The target can be a willing creature or place object no larger than 10 feet in any dimension. The target cannot be targeted by any divination magic or perceived through any magical scrying senses. So that was the reason why Zadrielle was not able to sense Strahd in that moment, even though he was very close to you guys at that point. He did offer to send Mirabelle home, but she refused, and he ultimately had her killed. She was imprisoned in the castle for quite some time before that fact happened, though. He was considering turning her into a vampire spawn, and then decided against it. And he didn't kill her himself. Rahadin did. Had her killed in the castle and fed to the vampire spawn in the dungeons. So yes, Mirabelle was obviously dead as her spirit was walking the march with you guys at the end there. But yeah, apart from that, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Unless there's anything else, any final questions, chat or players before we finish up, as we are about 10:30. No, nothing from anyone else.
You said something about me, but I can't remember what it was. You said, "I will get to that in a minute." I can't remember what it was.
I forget too.
But it's all good.
A friendship, maybe.
Oh, relationships. That was one final question. Relationships within the group. Bonds. Any particular character do you think you bonded with over and above any other character, and why? Just quickly. Baz.
So yeah, Carnos initially, I think he was leaning towards Scathis initially until Scathis got sick of his stories. So then he sort of more leaned on Fibble. Once he sort of found out Fibble could maybe help him with, repairing his hips and all that sort of thing, he definitely thought of Fibble as his most, and it might not have come out so much in role play, but that's his thinking. His thinking was, okay, this guy can help me when we finish up here. And then closer to the end, it switched again between Zadrielle and Adok, on and off, back and forth. Even though, because he didn't like Zadrielle at first, he thought she was some wacky bossy lady. He actually thought she was a bossy man to begin with. And then, no, this is not an attack at you, Yanti, not at all. Carlos is like, well, this dude is really annoying. And then, as time went by, he got told you're a chick and was like, okay, sweet, okay, all right, I know what's going on here. And then he realized, she's not so bad. She's got the heroic part of her is very different to the heroic part of him, and so he was able to relate to that. But then, like I say, towards the end, it definitely was Adok. He felt quite a bit friendship towards Adok just because of the things Adok was going through to become a better person, a better goblin, or whatever you want to call it, more heroic.
No worries. Zedrielle.
Well, I initially started with Fibble, but Fibble talked to everybody else except Zadrielle most of the time. So, obviously, Emilia's. I felt a soft spot for Emilia there, and then Adok. I feel like Zadrielle saw this person as lost, which is what she was feeling. She was feeling very lost. So it's kind of an empathy that developed to, make him found again. And then Scathis said, don't forget who you are or stop pretending you are at the end. And so that would have happened, but then he died.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that changed the course of Scathis's and Zadrielle's friendship for sure. Because even though I think it was because Scathis sensed the darkness that was in Zadrielle at the time she was under the influence of the Dark Gift. And it wasn't just coming from the Dark Gift, it was definitely coming from another place as well, which kind of worked. So it was very cool. I enjoyed that whole. The Amber Temple is probably my favorite part of the whole module, to be fair. I enjoyed the time in the Amber Temple. It was a lot of fun. Adok. Relationships, my friend.
I definitely think it was Emilia was the strongest, but no, sorry.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a good relationship.
No, I think. Like Emilia and Adok, like Adok are the same retrospect as Zadrielle. I think it was the first person that Adok has ever thought about in his entire life that he wanted to kill. The first person that he was like, I'm gonna kill her, because I don't think he's ever had that thought. So yeah, but it was a little bit weird. Kind of chickened out towards the end, and kind of had some weird mixed emotions about it. But positive ones, definitely. Zadrielle, definitely kind of protected him. Was the one that kept him alive and stopped him from being killed by Karnos straight off the bat. But then as it went towards the later end of the module, Karnos and Adok's relationship started to develop a bit more, and it was around about the time that Karnos first died and he brought back. And yeah, I can't remember what I said to Karnos, but it was something about Adok realizing just how much he cared, but didn't want to admit that he cared about Karnos.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was either, but
yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting. Adok tried to get into Scathis, but it just didn't happen. So he was like, and then towards the end, he was like, "Fuck you, buddy! You're gonna be the next person I'm gonna kill."
Yeah, well, again, there was definitely a rift there towards the end. Emilia.
All right, so to start off with, the first thing that she saw is she recognized Carlos. And she's a teenage girl, and she's like, fuck yes, this is what I want. And then when she found out that he didn't have what she needed to satisfy her, she'll Vasily,
that's right,
Carl, Ismark, the
pretty
list
much
goes.
any eligible male in Barovia.
And then she eventually got sick of Carnos's stories, as did Scathis. And then one night found him asleep in her bed and went, well, shit.
Yeah, did strange things with his tail.
Did strange things with his tail. In general, though, I would say that I think she had a good relation. She thought she had a good relationship with Zadrielle after she came clean.
And even still after having her head caved in.
And yeah, I mean, even after she had her head caved in, she was more worried about Zadrielle's health than she was her own. Like, when she's in her bed, basically out of it, and she's like, come closer, are you okay?
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene too, like with pretty much that whole thing, more worried about Zadrielle's mental state than you were about the fact you just had the whole side of your skull caved in.
Was that before or after she got turned by Strahd?
After,
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, she caved your head in while she was under the influence of Strahd, and then he released her pretty much at that moment to sort of go, hey, here, look at what you've done, kind of thing. It was definitely designed to take a toll on her mental state at that point. And Scathis.
towards the end, definitely Zedriel. But from the start, because of how he was brought up and all that, I'd say he would have been standoffish, being shunned by humans and all that.
Yeah, I mean, Scathis was pretty much that right the way through. I don't think he really developed any kind of bond except for that with Zadrielle towards the end there. Purely because he just didn't trust anyone.
He did try a little bit with Karnos, but yeah,
the story's got the better of him.
Oh, yeah.
And he really didn't like Adok at all. Scathis just had a thing for Adok. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what caused that. It just became a thing throughout the story. I mean, Fibble. I would love to get Fibbles on this as well, but I mean, from what I could see with Fibblestab, he was just himself. Like, he was just out there the whole time. And obviously his relationship with Zadrielle, the fact that they were already traveling companions. You could sort of see a little bit of a bond with Adok and Fibble a little bit as well, kinda, but it was kind of hard to tell.
What I kind of thought with Fibble, I kind of thought that Fibble viewed everyone as experiments.
Oh, 100%. I could see right off. Yeah, that I could totally agree with.
What we could do is make him a little
We
bit
can make him better, faster,
Just a
stronger.
whole bunch of different experiments. I've got this potion. Drink it. See what happens.
I think you're right. I think 100% you're right. It was definitely... Yeah, no worries, Baz. I know you got an early start, but we'll catch you on Sunday. Or actually, I'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, it's Saturday and Sunday. So
No
catch
worries.
you, everybody. Thank you.
Catch you, bud. But yeah, so I mean, we're pretty much going to finish up as well. We're over our time. I know Drax probably got an early start, and Trashy's got an early start. I know you're not working tomorrow. Oh, look at that. Cam's probably wide awake and probably needs food and stuff. So, but anyway, again, even though Baz is gone and Fibble's not here, once again, I'd like to very much thank the players for being a part of the campaign and helping me tell one of my favorite stories, modules within the 5e universe. As I say, keep hanging out with us, guys. You'll see more stories in the future. Chicken will be, hopefully, I don't know when you're going to be ready. I'll have to get you to just shoot me a DM in Discord at some point and give me an idea of when you're going to be ready to get going. And hopefully over the next couple of weeks, with any luck, 2 to 3 weeks, because I need to organize my content. So I need to know when you think you're going to be ready, so I can organize my Wednesday content going forward. So you shoot me a DM, let me know. But if he's not ready for a longer period of time, we'll probably look at running the other mini adventure I have ready to go before that. Otherwise, it'll be more map making on a Wednesday moving forward until he's ready. I'll be playing in that mini adventure as well as Yanti. I think Trash is in there, Baz is there. Mr. Stib will be there as well, and is Drax in that one? I'm not sure. I know we've got 6 players. I just can't remember who else is in there. Oh, Grim is the other one that's in there. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be streamed on my channel at some point. It'll be on a Wednesday night, so keep it on Discord. We'll announce that. Moving forward, we've got Yanti's got stuff coming up, although I think you are not streaming your campaign Friday due to illness, I believe.
Might figure something out maybe Friday. Yeah.
But
Friday.
check her out anyway, guys. We still got mods in the channel. I know Drax is here. Do you want to shout out Yanti, Drax, please? Make sure you go follow Yanti. Go check out. She's doing the Icepire Peak series. I think you're up to Sleeping Dragon's Wake.
Yep.
And I have been a part of that series as well. Possibly will be a reappearance of Vilfin at some point in the future. So keep an eye out there. Sundays, we're back here for our homebrew and things and stuff. Tuesdays has become Call of Cthulhu Tuesday over on Yanti's channel. And at the moment, we've had 2 parts of a adventure over there, and we'll be part 3 this coming Tuesday. So again, make sure you guys are following Yanti. I'm also playing in that campaign as well. Lot of sharing around here. But yes, so make sure you go check out everyone. Everyone knows who everyone is. Follow everyone. Do the things and stuff. Check out the YouTube, the Twitter, all those bits and pieces. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow night for Maps and Monsters, as we normally do. Continuing on the Curse of Strahd maps, funnily enough. Now that we've completed the campaign, I'm going to recreate all of the battle maps for Curse of Strahd and Dungeon Draft. So if you enjoy watching maps being made and me talking a lot of shit, which I always do, come and hang out. Failing that, thank you very much everybody, and thank you much chat for hanging out with us again. New follower out there, Skull Stations, thank you for the follow, I saw that. And cheers guys, we'll see you tomorrow night. We should raid, shouldn't we? Holy shit. Almost forgot. We got any Dungeons and Dragons on tonight? Doesn't look like it. Holy crap. GM Workshop. Yanti raided him last night, I believe, or the other night. So we're gonna raid GM Workshop, guys. If you're not following him, make sure you do. World Builder, Mini Painter, does some really cool stuff with Tailspire as well. Make sure you go hang out there and do the thing and the stuff. And we will see you tomorrow.